Today we have a story that comes from the Old Testament of the Bible. That's the first part of the Bible. And there we'll find a group of books that tell stories about people who were called prophets. Have you heard that word before? Prophets? Okay. Prophets are the people to whom God gives a special message for God's people. And then their job is to take it wherever God asks them to and bring that message to the people. So the prophet we're going to talk about today is named Jeremiah. And one day, God came to Jeremiah and said, Jeremiah, I have a message for you to take to the people of Judah and Jerusalem. And so Jeremiah listened, but nothing happened. God said, oh, I need you to go down to the potter's house. That's where I'll give you the message. Potter's house. What's a potter? Do you guys know? What could a potter be? I'll give you a clue. What could a potter be? A potter is someone who works with clay to build things that are strong and useful and beautiful. Okay? So, interesting. Jeremiah had to go to the potter's house in his village. And when he got there, he listened. No message yet. So he started watching the potter work. She had a potter's wheel. And some potters use the wheel to put their clay on there. They slap it down hard. And then they build it up while they spin the wheel. And some people build with the clay by hand. Anyway, Jeremiah was watching, thinking, what could God be telling me by watching this potter? He watched for a while, and it looked a little bit like she was having trouble with what she was trying to do. It just wasn't going quite the way she had in mind.
Well,
It was a little bit floppy, a little bit torn apart. It wasn't going to hold very much water. And so he watched, and the potter thought, time to start again. So he watched and watched, and before too long, he thought, the potter looks pretty pleased with herself now.
I guess.
She's made something that's upright and strong. Looks like it'll hold water. It's going to be useful for people. And then he thought, what message could God be giving me by having me stand here and watch a potter at work? But Jeremiah was used to the ways of the prophets, and so he figured it out pretty quickly. Because Jeremiah was hearing God say, I'm like a potter. God is like a potter who has given us so much good information and guidance to form us into the right kind of people. People who are helpful and kind. People who have mercy on others and are loving. People who live in a way of peace. So he thought, that's the message I need to take today out to all the people in this city. And so that's what he did. It was a good place to get a message, I think, from God. Let's stand up today and have a prayer. Dear God of mercy, teach us your way so that we can grow as individual people and as a community in ways that make us strong, and courageous, brave, upright, and merciful. May we follow your way of love and peacemaking. May we do all of these things through Jesus' teachings. Amen.
Amen.
Hi, it's been a surgeon on Friday afternoon.
I should be on Percocet. But I'm not. It's good to see you all. Christian, urban, monastic Shane Claiborne complains that when non-Christians think of Christians, they think three things: anti-gay, judgmental, hypocritical. So how would you characterize Christian faith to someone who knows it not? Do we model it as something worthwhile, worthy? Like a lifestyle, maybe? Is it a program to improve the world? Or is it more of a personal choice, without which the world does not make sense? How do we characterize that initial cost? Any monthly fees? I think Shane's right. Christianity often does have this image problem. We can be so many things to so many people. So how are we one and united and authentic? Claiborne's quip about Christianity reminds me of G.K. Chesterton's quote. He says, "Christianity has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and not tried." So I got to wondering, maybe we should isolate the part of this Jesus story that sounds good. And we Christian progressives can make good press by saying yes to immigrants, yes to every gender expression, no to being judgmental. It can be easy being a Christian, as long as you don't take certain parts of the Bible that seriously. We could just keep on quoting Luke chapter 4's good news to the poor, release to the captives, sight to the blind, oppressed go free, a year of the Lord's favor. Or we could repeat Luke 8's healing of the legion guy out in the graveyard, or the healing of the woman with bleeding for 12 years, or the raising of Jairus' daughter. Or how about chapter 10's Good Samaritan story? Or why not go to Luke 15, those three lost items, the son, the coin, the sheep. These will all preach. And we have preached them, and we still do. But have you heard the low rumblings throughout Luke, where Jesus complexifies discipleship? Jesus calls his generation evil. He praises those who stay alert and awake. He talks how he's going to start bringing division, not peace. He says some people are worthy of even drowning by putting a millstone around their necks. He tells a rich man he has to sell everything and give the money to the poor. More than a few times then, Luke hints that Jesus is looking for some hardcore disciples who are willing to go beyond their comfort zones in the search for justice, because they may have to knock on the doors of their own hearts. Ever seen a EULA? E-U-L-A. I checked one off on Thursday afternoon on my iPad to complete a software update. A EULA is an end user license agreement. Those long, legal, lawyered agreements that one must check off before you use the software on your device. Ever read one? I know exactly one person who has. What if being a disciple of this Jesus has a EULA checkbox too? Have we read all the fine print? The text that binds our hearts and missions in this Bible? So how about we include this fine print in our youth curriculum and in our Bible thumpers? Quote, "In your life, precisely because you are a Jesus follower, you will suffer. You'll be asked to give up precious things, question precious relationships, suffer loss of faith, embarrassments, job changes, instabilities, impairments, and loss. You'll be misunderstood. discriminated against, gossiped about. Your life will be full of hard news, more a funeral march than a victory lap. Who will tick the Eula Christian box now? So maybe it's time for the gospel lesson. Please rise if you can and listen for God's fine print for today. It comes from Luke chapter 14, 25 to 33. Now large crowds were traveling with him, and he turned and said to them, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost, to see whether you have enough to complete it? Otherwise, when you've laid a foundation and not able to finish, all who see it will start ridiculing you, saying, 'This fellow began to build, not able to finish.' Or what king, going out to wage war against another king, will not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who's coming after him with 20,000? If you cannot, then, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you did not give up all your possessions." This is God's word for God's misfits.
Thanks be to God.
Last week, my brother sent me a meme, a picture with a caption that read, "Church is just a book club that's been stuck on one book for centuries," which is somewhat true. We read the text, but when a good text reads us in return, we keep on reading. Good texts are like radar. They echolocate our heart, soul, and will. In this reading, Jesus echolocates and addresses the heart of the matter, the core stakes of what it means to be associated with him. Faithful discipleship is not for the faint of heart. 3 times, Jesus spells out what these stakes are. Hate your parents, key family relationships, even yourself. Carry your own cross as you follow Jesus. Give up all you have. 4 quick comments. 1, the word in Greek is indeed hate. It's not kind of hate, like I hate Mondays. It's an active resistance, a non-resting hate. Carrying the cross, number 2, is Jesus' death sentence. We can water it down by saying that we too die to certain things, like chocolate during Lent. But what else might that mean? 3, this is the only passage in the entire Christian scriptures that has the word cost. Is this an initial cost only? Or is this like every day? 4, the passage ends with the most uncomfortable flourish. So therefore, none of you can become my disciples if you do not give up all your possessions. Is he just trying to winnow down the crowds of would-be Facebook friends of Jesus? You know, those who like everyone and everything without discrimination? Or is Jesus taking a page out of Gideon, who put his army to the test to lower its numbers from 32,000 to a mere 300 soldiers? But one's tough and ready. I don't know. I really don't. Certainly, it seems the disciple is one who travels lightest and least encumbered. But are my house and car titles on the line here? My retirement? When was the last time I put it all on the line? The dotted line, the line I would not cross, or the line that I would cross? It ain't pretty. My life is hardly a model for anyone here. What Jesus spells out here seems to involve a total dedication, one without compromise, one without timeouts, no coasting. I am not the one to preach this, I tell you. That this passage has survived the New Testament editing process, and that its hard words did not get filed down and with softening agents added, perhaps suggests its authenticity all the more. I think we can pretty much interpret this passage as it is written. Kiss everything goodbye. Parents, spouse, kids, family, all you hold dear, and be infamous for wearing the cross. Is it hyperbole? Can we just say that he was being a little bit unreasonable to grab our attention? Like a presidential candidate, who really doesn't mean everything they say. I mean, we're all liberals and progressives here. We don't do literal interpretation, right? So I don't know what to say here. I really don't. Seems to me if Christians are to be disciples, it should not be an impulse thing, not something one joins like the AARP or your political party. One just wouldn't marry anyone, right? There has to be a counting of the cost. So maybe you could tell I'm having a lot of trouble up here because I have been part of and know of other movements where total dedication is expected. When compared with what athletes or Marines or professional musicians do every day, Christian discipleship can look relatively easy. Hey, even to join the inner sanctum of a Nazi or some communist parties was to reallocate all one had to give it over to the larger group. What makes Christian discipleship so different from that? Do Christians get a reduced rate of suffering? Or a guarantee for more? A free pass? Or the costliest of scrutiny? I'm just ready to turn it all in. Throw in the towel. I'm tempted to give everyone a copy of Dietrich Bonhoeffer's book, The Cost of Discipleship, and end this message, dismiss this sermon, and say, just go home and read it. We'll continue it next time in Bible Thumpers, Sermon on the Mount reading groups, and yes, there will be a test, essay. Now, I have a theory why Jesus does this. He calls people out so radically from their daily routines, both then and now. It goes like this. Are you not like me, trapped in the cultural webs of the day? Cultural webs spun by the cultural webmeisters. Anyone can get caught up in, get co-opted by, captured, and even incarcerated by these forces. What are they? To start a list, unthinking privilege, sexism, racial superiorities, capitalist worldviews, middle-class sensibilities, tax code priorities, social media algorithms, empire thinking, ownership, ever-ready war preparation. These capture us, they tax us, mostly out of sight. And they prepare a place for themselves in the head, in the heart, in the pocketbook, on our calendar. Yes, we may protest these, but for the most part we protect them with our accommodating silence, if you're like me. How much is my life, outlook, and expectations not all that different from what the middle-class American life is like? Is there any contrast between my life and middle America? Am I the person to preach this sermon today? I really don't know. So as Jesus traveled about, he found people caught in the cultural webs of his day. Refugees, women who could not accommodate themselves to the impossible demands of a male culture, poor people who could not afford the purity culture of the ruling religious classes, those without health care, Samaritans who view themselves as the promise keepers of Yahweh, but were prevented by the religious elites of Jerusalem. Jesus was, much of the time, I think, a shaman, bringing divine healing of body, mind, and will to those the system had made into misfits. He took those who did not fit and made them into misfits for the kingdom of heaven. His message boils down simply to this: you are not what's happened to you. We are not our histories. We are not who we were on our worst day. We are not the culture that reduces us to a hyphenation, a bleeder, an outcast, an abomination on the bottom. You see, the system was making them misfits already. Jesus came and said, I think you're already used to being misfits. Let me show how your misfit skills are the very skills for making God's kingdom come on earth. Yeah, you'll stay a misfit, but for a purpose now. Misfits to see God more clearly. Misfits to show up for God's causes here on earth. Blessed are the misfits, for they are fit for the kingdom of God. Blessed are the hyphenated people, for you connect. Blessed are the bleeders, for you shall have new blood. Blessed are the outcasts, for you shall know where to cast for people. Blessed are the abominations, for you shall be first in the nation of God. And blessed are you on the bottom, for you shall be in good company all the days of your life. So maybe this strong Jesus program aims to show this well-adjusted, liberal, progressive, what it really means to be radically maladjusted and a misfit. Luke's gospel is Jesus' constitution, the preamble for which is back in Luke chapter 4. You know this by heart, so you can repeat with me. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives, recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. That's the preamble. So in chapter 14, Jesus midrashes his fine print. For those of us poor in other ways, who are captives of our class, who are blind to others, he says to us, your primary identity is now in God. No longer in family, or nation, or flag, not in service to country, nor in possessions, or status, or skin color, or ideology, or tribe, or spending habits. Your identity politics is now a cross, a death symbol, nothing more. Death to the life of self. You are the identified misfits, learning no longer that to go along is to get along. You'll find your identity in turning the other cheek, getting rid of weapons and defenses, going the second mile, loving those popular to hate, wearing out the oppressors with your patient, loving drip, drip, drip of holy water against their rocks of oppression. You will not just clothe and feed and visit and be hospitable. You will know why people are naked and hungry and alone and unhoused and unwelcomed in the first place. You will party with folks not invited to anyone else's party. Welcome to the gospel of the fine print. All good religion gets us past our egos and our surrounding ourselves with ourselves. Jesus' program in Luke reminds me of the emptiness of Zen, the no self and the non-attachment of Buddhism, the spiritual virginity of the Christian desert mystics, the inner jihad and the hajj of Islam, and the dive into true self of Mayhem Tyler. Cultivate your hearing, mature your insight, lighten your load, grow a conscience, reduce yourself to elevate others, lower the spiritual static. In the kingdom of God, where is the place for the ego, for fitting in, and traditional comforts. Why does Jesus want misfits with nothing but the cross? To have nothing to weigh us down as we get off our duffs and see with Jesus' eye, and hear with Jesus' ear, and feel with his heart, and be neighbors to the neighborless. There is a cost to discipleship, but it ain't a tax. It's not a burden. It is only the subversion of whatever has become fitting and normal. It is a misfitting message for the already misfits, and is the fine print for those who still would be misfits for the kingdom of God. So, you meet somebody new on the bus, the train, the plane, at work, on the soccer field, at the gym. They ask you, what's this Jesus thing all about? What would he have us do? What shall we say, my fellow book club members?
Amen.
Amen.
Dorothy Day, who was the founder of the Catholic Worker Houses of Hospitality in the Catholic Worker Movement, was on the FBI list of suspicious, questionable characters. Found herself interviewed a time or two, and reports written about her life back to J. Edgar Hoover. And sure enough, her life is troubling and challenging. It's compelling and it's beautiful because of the grace that she and the Catholic worker found to live together, to share their lives with one another and with those who they found, and to witness for peace. But it's also troubling because it's real. And it shows a way forward for us that can be at the same time both compelling and frightening. We have found, Jennifer and I have found her autobiography. It's called The Long Loneliness, a beautiful writing, and especially the last few pages, the last little section of her autobiography, we've read a time or two and found it compelling and hopeful. And recently, as we found ourselves part of this Sermon on the Mount group on the east side of town, we have been reminded of this little ending to this book where she writes about the simple power of gathering with one another and being called into this story. So we'll share these last lines with you. Peter Morin, who I'll reference, was someone who came into Dorothy Day's life after she had her daughter baptized as a Catholic and was finding her life truly becoming radicalized. He came into her life, and together they formed the Catholic Worker Movement. We were just sitting there talking when Peter Morin came in.
We were just sitting there talking when lines of people began to form, saying, "We need bread." We could not say, "Go, be thou filled." If there were 6 small loaves and a few fishes, we had to divide them. There was always bread.
We were just sitting there talking, and people moved in on us. Let those who can take it, take it. Some moved out, and that made room for more. And somehow the walls expanded.
We were just sitting there talking, and someone said, "Let's all go live on a farm."
It was as casual as all that. I often think it just came about. It just happened.
I found myself a barren woman, the joyful mother of children. It is not always easy to be joyful, to keep in mind the duty of delight.
The most significant thing about the Catholic worker is poverty, some say.
The most significant thing is community, others say. We are not alone anymore.
But the final word is love. At times it has been, in the words of Father Zosima, a harsh and dreadful thing. And our very faith and love has been tried through fire.
We cannot love God unless we love each other. And to love, we must know each other. We know Him in the breaking of bread, and we are not alone anymore. Heaven is a banquet, and life is a banquet too, even with a crust where there is companionship.
We have all known the long loneliness, and we have learned that the only solution is love, and that love comes with community.
It all happened while we sat there talking, and it is still going on.
Dorothy Day's life is difficult to explain if Jesus is not resurrected and present in this meal, and still calling us together, and still calling us to follow. So let us share together.